filming this before it gets really dark outside. Hi, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Mihaela Gruja. I make weekly videos about motherhood and entrepreneurship, and I also have a series on my channel where I show you our garden transformation. I'm filming this video on the 1st of November, and here in the UK we are due to enter a month-long lockdown, which needless to say is causing again a lot of stress and anxiety for a lot of people. So if you're feeling the same way, make sure to stick around until the end of the video. I'll be doing a very short guided meditation for us to together release some of the stress and some of these emotions that are coming over us in this difficult time. In this video, as you can see by the title, I want to share a few things, 6 actually, things that I have noticed I no longer do after having a baby. I don't think these are as a result necessarily of having a baby, it's just things that I've noticed over the last months in my physical and my emotional well-being that I no longer do. And I think they're very interesting, if I say so myself. I think they're very interesting. I'm just curious to share them with you and to see whether you have similar experiences. Now, it's of course a known fact that motherhood and just in general being a parent brings about all sorts of changes, from physical changes to emotional changes, and I think it's just now with the hindsight that I can notice these in myself and, you know, reflect on the, I would say, positive impact that they have had on me. Some of them are neutral, they're not necessarily good or bad, they're just things that are happening differently. The first one is I no longer tolerate scented or perfumed products, and I have noticed this specifically in cosmetic products. I remember very vividly when my friends were trying to encourage me to use fragrance-free products. There was one product by The Ordinary, it's the face cream that they do, and it didn't have any scent, and I remember thinking, I just think this product is too boring and it's not very exciting to use. Kind of comes down to all of this marketing material that we've been sold on, the fact that our products need to smell good to make you feel good. And I think now I am just so much more sensitive to scent. I have had a very acute sense of scent throughout my pregnancy. I could detect any odd scent. I remember we were house hunting at the time, and it was a great asset to have when you're trying to figure out whether the house has mold or not. So my scent was very acute, very pronounced throughout pregnancy, and I think after having a baby I have just stopped tolerating basically fragranced products. The second aspect is I do not wear a bra anymore, and I don't know again if this is to do with the fact that I just want to be extra comfortable all of the time, with the fact that I breastfeed and have been breastfeeding since day one, and with the fact that just in general, as I've aged, you know, I'm in my late 20s now, I have just parted ways with not feeling comfortable. Bras are just such a big aspect of that. I definitely broke up with wire bras way back in maybe my early 20s. I refuse to wear wire bras anymore. I'd say my breast size has increased a little bit since having Harper, but not massively. You know, I think that's one of those myths that you think that after you have a baby and when you breastfeed, your boobs are going to be huge. That was not the case. The third aspect is the fact that I no longer run. Running used to be my go-to exercise, and in fact 2 years ago our friend Sarah, my husband, and myself started this challenge of running all the way from Leeds to Liverpool on the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. It was one of the highlights of my pre-baby days, and I remember fondly running in the rain, running in the snow, rain or shine, we would be out there at the weekend running and feeling really great about it. But I actually stopped running in my 2nd month of being pregnant. I could not handle the morning sickness with the running. As my pregnancy developed, I just never really got back into running. You know, after having a baby, well, it took me a while to get into exercise full stop, but when I started exercising again, running was not my go-to, and I did try on a couple of occasions. I have instead opted for shorter workouts. I do high intensity workouts at home, typically between 20 and 30 minutes long maximum. It's obviously no surprise that time is very limited, but even so, I'd much rather break a sweat in a shorter space of time than go on a longer run to feel that sense of, you know, accomplishment in terms of my training. It is sad, and I do wonder if we're ever going to finish our challenge of reaching Liverpool on the canal, and as heartbreaking as it is, I'm glad to have found a form of exercise that fulfills me and is more suitable to what my body needs. Now, the fourth aspect is really a big one, and that is not criticizing my body. Now, I think in society, both men and women receive all sorts of messages, subtle and not so subtle, about how we should be, how we should look, and this constant message that we should be constantly tinkering with our bodies and with our appearance. I think this is especially the case for women when it comes to the beauty and the makeup industry, and I would lie if I said that I didn't internalize some of these messages myself. Having said that though, having a baby, giving birth to a human being, has been such a balm over all of my insecurities about my body. I think that experience of going through pregnancy, that very gradual approach to growing a human, and also just that experience of labor, which I have made a video about, that very intense and raw and rewarding experience, has just made every other thought or insecurity about my body pale in comparison. I mean, how could I criticize this life-giving body of mine? You know, it's really hard. And obviously that's not to say that if you don't have kids you will never stop criticizing your body. It's just, in my experience, I have been able to look at my body with a lot more compassion and a lot more appreciation for the beautiful things that it has to offer to me, and for the fact that it's healthy, and that it has not only given me my daughter, but it's giving me the life that I lead every single day. In fact, I have a pact with two of my friends that 20s might be the decade when you can complain about your body, but once you reach your 30s you are no longer allowed to do so, and I'm happy that I was able to reach that stage just a little bit earlier, before my 30s, as a result of having a baby. Okay, the fifth aspect I no longer do, or at least have massively reduced, has been not being such a control freak. Now, when I said this to my husband, he laughed, and then he said, "Is this a joke?" But then he was actually joking. So listen, as a Capricorn and a type A personality, I've struggled with this a lot, you know, and I think I've mentioned this in a few videos before. When it comes to being a parent, you realize you have to kind of let go of that control. The more I spend time with Harper, the more I realize that parenting is less about teaching and more about actually setting up that environment for my daughter to learn herself, to experience life independently, and to be able to have that sense of reward and achievement for herself. And also it's about modeling behavior about how I am, and then she picks up on that. So not feeling overly anxious about the chaos in the house, the chores that are not done, the fact that there's mess on the floor, the baby-led weaning, just everything that could possibly go wrong when you have a baby. Most likely it will go wrong, and you have to just constantly learn to just let go of all of that. That is such a huge achievement, I think, given the fact that patience wasn't necessarily my #1 quality before having a child. Okay, and finally, before I run out of light, it is only 4 p.m. but it's getting dark outside. The final point I wanted to talk about is the fact that I'm no longer judgmental about other parents' choices. And this might sound odd, so just bear with me for a little bit. I think that when you don't have a kid, and for example, a situation I would have been in, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, I'd be on the beach and overhearing, first of all, being on the beach, that's something I don't do anymore. But anyway, being on the beach, overhearing a couple of parents talking in a certain way to their child, or doing something, and me thinking to myself, oh, I would never do that. Whilst I think that it's perfectly fine to disagree and say, you know, I choose to do things differently, I think I've become much more empathetic with the fact that having a kid is so hard. In my opinion, loving parents are just heroes that you know, deserve a lot more credit for keeping their children alive and staying sane at the same time. That's it. Those are the 6 things that I no longer do after having a baby, and I promised at the beginning of the video to do a very short meditation to how should I put it, to maybe release some of the stress that we all have around the fact that we're gonna have another lockdown soon. I know for me, last night when we were reading the news, I just felt this wave of emotion coming over me and I had a really hard time sleeping. And then when I woke up, I remember thinking, did I dream about that, or is that actually happening? Without further ado, I've never done this before, I haven't practiced before, but I would do something very, very simple and ask you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more time. And one more time, breathe in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Now I want you to think with me about a time in your life when you felt so happy. Really try to be in that moment. Imagine what you were wearing. Think about who was next to you. Any smells in particular? What were the people around you saying? How did you feel? Really be in that moment and soak in and extract all of that happiness that you felt in that moment and bring it to where you are now. Perhaps you are outside, perhaps you are alone, or surrounded by someone you love. Whatever it was, just breathe that feeling in. Breathe that feeling in. I want you to open your palm. Take a deep breath in. And when you exhale, exhale that feeling in the center of your palm. One more time. Now close your hand. Squeeze it really tight and touch your heart. Now hold it there. Hear your heart beat. You're holding that feeling in your palm, and it can never let you go. Deep breath in. And breathing out. And when you're ready, open your eyes. That got me emotional a little bit. Well, I know I have my feeling in my palm right here, and that's what I'm going to be holding with me throughout this next month, which is going to be an intense month, but I know that it will get better. And we'll get back to feelings just like this one very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.